Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah. What I need to do here is expand on the problem of Quasi-Islam, and I'm going to talk specifically about celebrity worship and hero seeking, and a kind of lack of maturity and development in the Muslim community. So, in my early years in Islam, the scholars that I learned from warned about two things, okay? They warned about hero worship, and they warned about people that they called Ashab al-Rai or Ahlul Rai, which means the people of opinions, the opinionizers. And on this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, هُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ. Okay? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent His messenger with guidance and the deen of haqq. Okay? Haqq does not mean opinions. Haqq means reality, truth, and facts. And all Islamic sciences, okay, are built on gathering the facts, okay? The same that we would do in any of the modern sciences, okay? Now, the thing is that Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu also gave a warning, okay, and a great piece of advice when he said, know the truth and then you will know the people of truth, okay? But this is not what Muslims do today. Today, Muslims do not study Islam. And so what you have is popular figures, okay? And to give a very clear example of how this is problematic is that in the 33 years that I've been a Muslim, okay, I have known tons of imams working in the masajid here in DFW who are not on Sunni Islam, okay? And as a matter of fact, several years ago, I was sitting in a masjid, and one of the local imams was standing in front of the masjid talking, and he said something from his mouth that in the aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah is kufr. Okay, he said something that is kufr. It is disbelief. And not a single Muslim in the masjid opened his mouth. Nobody even looked sideways. I was the only one there. And I just leaned over to the brother, my friend sitting next to me, and I said, man, did you hear what he just said? And this is the problem when Muslims don't know your deen. You don't know if that person talking is talking about actual Islam or not. And I mentioned this in a previous video when I said that today's Muslims don't know Islam, and you don't know if that place that you call a masjid is actually a masjid or not. And I'm telling you, it's not. Okay? I mean, in so many ways, it's not. It's extremely dangerous to not know your deen. What Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu was saying is that you have to know your deen, and you won't know it without studying it. And until you know your deen, then all you're getting is hearsay. Well, I heard Sheikh so-and-so, he's the greatest sheikh around, and I like him so much, okay? And then, you find out years later that that sheikh was horrible. Okay, I mean, he made a disaster out of his own Islam. And this has literally happened, but I'm not going to mention names, okay? The point is that you have to study your deen. And then the issue of connecting quasi-Islam to this celebrity worship, okay? See, the problem is, again, understanding the foundation of quasi-Islam is that actual Islam requires work. But 98% of Muslims refuse. And so the culture of the community is built on a rejection of actual Islam. Okay? And as I discussed this in an earlier session, then the community replaced actual Islam, which is based on work, with a quasi-Islam that is based on talk. Okay? And that talk tends to seek amusement. Okay? And so the majority of Muslims in the community then, okay, will not work for Islam daily, the way I was taught from the beginning. Well, may not work for Islam a day in their life, but are looking for the next lecture, the next guest speaker, the next, community event. Okay? It's an amusement seeking. And it's very dangerous because you have people in the community with actual facts and trying to teach properly or trying to solve problems. And we are completely marginalized, completely shoved outside. Okay? When that celebrity guest speaker who comes into town, he comes in Friday, gives a talk Friday night, gives a talk Saturday night, and Sunday catches a flight back out of town. He's not here working for Islam. He won't be here to solve your problems. Okay? He or she. But you have Muslims right down the street working to solve the most serious problems you have in your community, and we cannot get support. We can't even get a date set in, the quasi-masjid to talk about the most important things in Islam. When you have an entire community of Muslims going to Jahannam, probably. Okay? So, I mean, it's extremely serious. But then how that continues. The thing is that if someone just came into Islam or someone's, a young Muslim and they're just now, kind of paying attention to their deen, then I don't blame them for looking, for some celebrity. Okay, I understand that. Okay, I was there. All right. But that is a permanent feature of the entire community. You've got 50, 60, and 70-year-old Muslims who have the mentality and the maturity of a 10-year-old child. Okay? And it stays that way. I'm talking about that it's the same today as it was 35, 45 years ago. It means your community doesn't develop. And why? It's because of quasi-Islam. That's the point that I made in an earlier session, that quasi-Islam has replaced actual Islam. Actual Islam would bring development and maturity and problem solving and, working Muslims getting things done. We don't have that, and we haven't had that. Okay? Quasi-Islam then is more about amusement or, I want to hear a nice talk that makes me feel happy. That's not what Islam is for. Okay? You don't even know if that talk is Islam or not. And when your community continues spending your time like that, then you can't do Islam. There are only 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week, and if your time is occupied with YouTube talks or Facebook talks or, guest speaker talks, okay, or these events, you'll never get around to doing Islam. And that's exactly where we are. That's why your community now, ISNA is 58 years old, and your masajid have not developed to the point that you even started to address the most important thing in Allah's Deen, which is the mission of da'wah and the lives of converts. And your community has lost 90% of converts and destroyed the lives of converts, and you continue and you will continue because you haven't started doing Islam. You're on Quasi-Islam. You're lost. Okay? So I got to cut off here. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.